One of the reasons I chose my PhD topic of Wicksell's natural rate of interest is I felt the current system can't change in a positive direction unless economic theory changes. And in order for me to have a voice in the community of economic thought, I need to do research. And I need to back up that research with data, quantifiable data. Because I'm going against the bigwigs in the economic consortium, I guess, the PhDs and all the experts in the Federal Reserve who believe that the economy should be managed in a particular way. It should be stimulated perpetually with macro, fiscal, and monetary stimulus. And a lot of us out there believe that this is not a way to bring back prosperity to the country or the world. The best way is to leave people alone. We don't need leaders. Leaders are an archaic idea. People just want to be left alone. They just want to live their lives. And that goes from a basic society all the way up to money and finance. And so if the government just left people alone in terms of monetary and fiscal policy, life would become more prosperous and better for the middle class and the poor. Because the ideas that they're operating on are mostly Keynesian ideas. They call themselves new Keynesians, post-Keynesians. There's people like Michael Wofford. Lambach and Williams creates a model, and you have the Taylor rule. These are all under the same cloak of macro managing the economy. Like I've said in my other videos, nobody likes a boss. Nobody likes to be part of a team where you're being micromanaged. If you've ever thought about your boss and you have a micromanager, this is Keynesian theory. However, my economic ideas come from an older tradition, a classical, neoclassical, and marginalist tradition, more from the Austrians, from the Wickelsians, in which the economy was led by individuals, people just living their lives. So my motivation is to, in an academic way, prove with data that can be defended and quantified, and at least make a case for this will lead to a more positive, prosperous future for all of us. Specifically, obviously, I'm dealing, as you've heard me say, Knut Wicksell, Wicksell's natural rate of interest. And I believe interest is basically a price. It's a price that the market creates. And the reason that Wicksell's so important is he is the beginning of the idea that there is something, or he is one of the foundings, that there's something that the interest rate, which obviously controls money, the bank rate, the inflow of investment and savings and where it goes, is bifurcated, that there's actually a bank rate and a natural rate. The natural rate is as if people were living in a barter economy. They were trading goods and services and living in a barter economy. And the bank rate is the financial supply and demand of loanable funds rate. If you set these two rates together, then the economy will drift to a natural equilibrium and we'll all be better off. The problem is the people that control the Federal Reserve, they underestimate it, and they are constantly tinkering with these natural rate estimates and setting Fed funds and bank rates at too low of a rate. They do this in perpetua, forever. And this creates a society which is not optimal. And the only way we can reallocate is through fiscal policy. My way is estimate the natural rate for what it is. That is the profit rate. You set the profit rate, there's data out there. You don't have to filter it through some neo-Keynesian model. And if you were to set it at the profit rate, let's say 8%, 7%, you'd have a much more prosperous society. Now that exact rate is in my thesis, obviously, and I'm not going into the detail because I think I'd bore you with the detail. I talk about the marginal efficiency of capital versus the marginal productivity of capital, and I think your eyes would glaze over. The neutral rate versus the natural rate versus the optimum rate versus the real rate. So I don't want to go into the theory and quote the chapter and verse of Mises, Hayek, Keynes, and Wicksell, or Woodford, but my idea is solid. It's that there's this natural rate that if people are left alone without leadership, we see what leadership does in the world. We see how great leaders are. We don't need leaders. Most people just want to be left alone, and that includes the Federal Reserve and monetary policy. If they just don't touch it, leave it alone, maybe look at some Wickelsian theory through new eyes, then the world will be a better place. What can I say? I'd love to change the world. All I can do is present arguments backed up by quantifiable data for a directional change. Thank you very much.